Yeah, so we just finished up a good 2 3 week stretch there, and I guess the last time since I sat in front of you guys, we had the Pac-12 championship, which the women won and the men were fourth, and then the regional meet where both teams ended up advancing to the national championship, which we leave on Wednesday of this week. So excited about that. You guys know you've heard me speak umpteen hundred thousand times about how we feel about the championship season, and this is kind of where we put our eggs in the basket, and this is the meet that we want to get to, and we have all of these other meets in preparation to get here. So we're going to be ready and fired up to go there, and we're going to go and have a chance to play for all the marbles.
Or when you were going through the whole transition thing in July and June and hiring a new coach, did you ever think at that point that your women's team would be back in a position at this point to win a national championship?
Yes and no. I think we had some talented kids that were still here in our program. It was just a matter of finding a good leader to lead them to the promised land and continue to help them grow and develop. Um, Probably no, as far as this good as good as they are. I thought that we could contend for the Pac-12s, but to be in the conversation, to battle the Colorados and the New Mexicos, and though the likes of those teams in the Boise States, that's probably been overarching.
Speaking of Colorado and Boise State, those are two other teams that are in contention, and you've beaten them the past 2 weeks. How much can you take from those two meets going into the national championship?
Yeah, it's a little different. Colorado will be really good because they run a really tight pack there, and those things get exposed when you're at the national championship because there's so many people. And so that same margin there could shrink because you get so many people in between your runners, and so we'll have to be smart and have to be strategic about how we go about running the national meet because there in those last straightaways you could get passed by 20 30 people, and that makes a huge difference in the point swing there at the end.
Robert, on the men's side, the arrangements were a little different. Blake was eighth after not being in the top five this whole season, and there were a few other different arrangements. What do you think contributed to that?
Yeah, it's one of those things to where we aggressively went after those guys this fall and really upping their mileage and really doing some things differently with them. And you can kind of see we're kind of a hodgepodge group, and maybe that's unfair to them. But what I'm really trying to say is look at how many number ones we've had in the last 2 or 3 meets. There's a different one every time. Usually there's one number one, and then everybody else comes in. And so for us to have one guy finish number one meet, another guy finish number one, another meet, what that shows us is that if we can all be on at the same day, we'll be pretty talented.
I have a question. Thank you. Sorry. Robert, Jessica has had a great fall, and it's probably not unanticipated that she would turn out to be a number one type runner. But Susan has also come on strong the last couple weeks. Are you surprised with where she is in that pack? Not necessarily being a scorer for you guys, but consistently being in that number two spot?
Yeah, she's kind of the surprise duckling out of all of those ducks there, and so based on what she did a year ago, and then based on what she's doing now, she's definitely grown a lot. And I think her and Helen do a great job of having a great coach-athlete relationship, and you're starting to see some of the fruits of that labor, as well as just her putting in a good fall conditioning, and she did really well there. And you can start to see some of those things take shape when we were at camp in Sun River, because she was running with that group there, running with Jess and Veronica and Isabel. She was right there with all of those girls. So to see her take that from our camp there in Sun River to the races is definitely rewarding, and maybe not so much surprising, but definitely to see her a year ago and to where she is now, definitely a pleasant surprise.
When did you get a sense that the women's team was as good as it is?
Probably in
Had
September.
potential.
And in September, Helen and I were sitting down and we're talking, and when we start just to look at the numbers, the numbers bear out to where we could really be solid. And now it's just a matter of they look good on paper, but you never know. Are they going to gel together as a group? What kind of synergy they're going to have as a unit? Because in cross country, all those things matter. One is just as good as five, and you can't score without all five. And so, can you bring those girls along? Can you get 6 and 7? Do you have a replacement if somebody has an off day? And I think we have those. And those girls have been really, really good. Really impressed with Amanda Garrett this year. You know, for where she placed that. At the Pac-12 meet, one of her best races of her life, and so to do it on that stage is definitely encouraging. So you start to see a little bit of depth there, just in case something does go awry during the race. So Helen's done a fantastic job of assembling a really great group over a very short amount of time.
It seems like the national perception of your women's team and their potential changed once you got into the postseason. And it sounds like that was true for you a little bit. Like again, you said it was, on paper you thought you had the pieces. So what was it like for you to see that all come together? And are there other factors too that you thought just clicked at the right time?
Yeah, like if you talk to Helen, she'll tell you that we haven't run to our max potential yet. Like we're still waiting for that perfect race. We're still waiting for everybody to hit it there. And she's probably talking about Isabel and Philly and Amanda. You know, those 4, 5, 6, 7 girls there to all really put together there, because on paper all of those girls are really good. And so when you say you don't really see that until we got to the championship season, probably a little bit of our scheduling that caused that. You know, we had the Priest Trail race, and then we had the Dillinger race there, and their first probably real race where they really got to mix it up with some other ranked teams came at pre-nationals. And as that being our first real competition, we probably didn't run well there either. I think we lost. I know we lost there in that race, and we were second. So to Arkansas, but to hit it at Pac-12s and then to do enough to get through regionals is definitely important. But you guys should also know that that's kind of who we are and how we do things. You know, what happens at the Priest Trail or what happens at the Dillinger meet doesn't mean a hill of beans. Sort of like our football team or our basketball team playing, who was it, Eastern Washington, Western Washington, one of those Washington schools there in basketball, or playing Bowling Green. You know, you're supposed to do well in those games. And so we did. We did well in the Priest Trail race. We did well at the Dillinger meet. And as the year goes on, we'll continue to mix it up against more and more better quality opponents and see if all of our training and all that thing is paying off.
Philly didn't race at West Regionals. Is she injured? Is she available for the weekend?
Yeah, she'll be running this weekend. Yeah.
Coach, I don't know if you can see this far back.
I know the voice.
All right, thanks. I think a lot of people watch cross country and think it's just an individual run as well as you can, finish as well as you can. But you mentioned strategy. In a race, how do athletes, or do they communicate with each other, and do coaches communicate with your runners to help them do what they need to do in a race?
Absolutely. So let's take the coaching piece of that question there. When you're out there for 20 minutes, 19 minutes, 20 minutes, depending on if the course is short or if we're running really, really fast or the conditions of the course, when you're out there for that long, you're 100% communicating and talking to your teammates. And then if you watch, you'll see the coaches sprinting from one point to another point. So a good marker for all the coaches, usually everybody wants to go by the mile marker, because they want to make sure that you set the tempo up for the race there at that mile marker. So you can kind of almost throw a blanket over all the coaches that are going to be at that mile marker. It's too fast, too slow, or yelling splits there. And so then it turns into a preference. So do you want to be at 2K? Do you want to be at 4K? Where do you want to be at your next mile marker? And depending on the course, you want to get to them as many times as possible. If nothing else, to give encouragement, to give reinforcement that you're going along and you're right on with the race plan, or you need to get up there and stick it out and get with your teammates. As far as the athletes go, you try to run with your teammates. Being there with your teammates is always comforting because that's somebody that you train and you practice with every day. And so to have them right there beside you at any point in the race is definitely a level of confidence or a level of comfort as you're going through the race. It gets hard sometimes when you get lost. It gets hard sometimes when you get to these bigger races. Pre-Nats is a bigger race. If you talked about Susan, Susan got lost. You know, Susan's been running on just Hull's shoulder or in front of just Hull all year long. And so there in that race, she got separated. She got caught up, and then she didn't see Jess or she didn't see us, and then she ended up finishing further back. And her race, worst race of the year, she was back there in the 50s and 60s or so when all our other girls were in the teens. So little things like that when you talk about talking as athletes or talking as coaches, you definitely encourage your teammates while you're there because ultimately it's a grind. It's a grind from when the gun goes off till you get to the end there, and it starts to hurt. You know, once you get around 3K there, that thing starts to burn and hurt a little bit, and you have this little devil on your shoulder saying, "Slow down, stop! It hurts, it's pain." And can you will yourself? Can you motivate yourself? Can you talk yourself through those next 3 or 4K there as you get ready to the finish line? Because once everybody gets to a K, everybody runs the last one well. Everybody runs the last K where everybody can sprint there because you can smell and you can sniff the finish line. So they always usually finish well.
Can I just clarify something you referred earlier to the women's team needing to find a good leader to lead them to the promised land? I first thought you meant Helen, but the way Jess has been running, maybe you could have been referring to her. Which did you mean?
I was definitely talking about Helen there in that scenario.